All right, Andy Staples on 3 is with us now. You can see him every single morning, same places you get us, YouTube, podcast, all of that. Support Andy's product there. Andy, welcome in. Thank you very much for the time. How are you today?
Doing good, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Doing fantastic. Having a conversation I think a lot of people didn't think we would be having today because I think most people in our audience thought Alabama would be in front of Notre Dame, and they were not. Were you surprised when you saw the Tide's name pop up before the Irish?
Yes. Yeah, because I think this committee feels like they're doing it differently than the ones in the past have, because we're just basing it off what we've seen the past 11 years. And the past 11 years, and I realize the people have changed, but there was always more of a reliance on who'd you beat than how many losses do you have, who'd you lose to? Because like last year's a good example. You know, there was this argument over Indiana and Alabama and all that. But the thing is, like, Alabama was ahead of Indiana when it only had 2 losses last year, and Indiana only had 1. And I thought that Alabama might end up ahead of Oregon and Notre Dame because Alabama's wins were a lot better than Oregon's too. So I was very surprised by that. And, you know, look, it's weird because you had Hunter Yurachek, the committee chair, say they weren't even directly comparing Miami and Notre Dame, who have the same record and played, and they have Notre Dame ahead. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. The thing about Bama, they got to win the Iron Bowl. That's pretty much it. Like, they'll be in if they win the Iron Bowl. They'll be out if they don't. And I think everybody understands that.
So, Andy, what do you think happens with Miami? I mean, they're going to be favored. They're going to be favored, obviously, Virginia Tech. I mean, they're a massive favorite in that one. But they're going to be favored at Pitt. If they went out and they're 10-2 and Notre Dame's sitting there at 10-2, I mean, does the ACC get 2 teams in?
No. They don't need one.
I mean, they don't deserve to get
They don't deserve one.
It depends on if you get to a point where there's direct comparison between Miami and Notre Dame, which I think the way they're creeping up in the rankings, they will. Now, I will point out that Miami typically does not like those cold weather games at the end of the season. They actually had a game against Pitt a few years ago, and obviously different coaching staff, different players, but you know, they went up there. It was Kenny Pickett's first start as a freshman, and they got shocked. And this is when they were going to the ACC championship game. So I think I wouldn't assume that Miami is going to just win out. But the thing is, if they look like they did against NC State and they do that for 2 games in a row more, I think they are going to end up getting compared to Notre Dame. And I think the Notre Dame fans who've been assured of Notre Dame's place in the playoff are going to be a little surprised at the end, because if they are making a direct comparison, they do feel like the resumes are similar, they're going to pick Miami because Miami won the game. So that's the thing. The tell last night was him saying they're not comparing those 2 directly. So that's interesting. The ACC is just wild. We're probably looking at a Georgia Tech Virginia ACC championship game, but given what's happened in that conference so far, I'm not willing to make any crazy predictions because Pitt's still in the mix, SMU's still in the mix. You know, it's entirely possible that some of these other teams could get in there.
If I can go back to Alabama again, Andy, as I often do, as you know, 2 things. One, I agree with you. If they beat Auburn and they stay where they are, they're in, unless there's a Big 12 championship game upset, because it's hard for me to imagine if Texas Tech wins out and then loses the Big 12 championship game that they fall all the way out. That's why I'm nervous about where Alabama is. And my second point is, if Alabama makes it to Atlanta and loses there, are you of the belief through your reporting, knowledge, and sourcing that loser of SEC championship game is in the playoffs? They're fine. If you can answer those 2.
I doubt there's any penalty for losing the SEC championship game, and that's the part everybody's got to remember. If Alabama wins the Iron Bowl, they're in the SEC championship game. Like, there's not any debate about that. So that's another feather in their cap. Like, that's another thing that's going to make sure they get in as long as they win. They're not falling out of the playoff if they lose to Auburn or if they beat Auburn. If they win the Iron Bowl, they're going to be in the playoff.
Okay.
Because
can I throw another scenario?
There's no other way. Like, you can't knock them out, and then they're going to go play in the SEC championship game, and you're not going to say, oh, because they lost the SEC championship game. If it comes down to Alabama, loser of the SEC championship game with 3 losses, versus Texas A&M, loser of the Big 12 championship game with 2 losses, they're going to pick Alabama.
Okay, so what about this scenario? You go back last year, Georgia loses Carson Beck at halftime, final play of the game, or final play of the half. If Alabama was to lose a significant player and lose the game, I mean,
maybe
major hypothetical there, but
it didn't hurt Georgia.
Well,
they won the game.
Georgia won the game.
Yeah, but Alabama is deep enough that they're not gonna pull what. Remember, it's not a 14 playoff, so they're not gonna pull what they did with Jordan Travis in Florida State. Like what? How significant a player we're talking about? Ty Simpson.
That's significant.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we think Alabama doesn't have a capable backup quarterback?
You assume, but
do we think Alabama doesn't beat most of the teams in the country if they're starting their backup?
Probably, but I'm
it's
just
Alabama,
saying.
For God's sake.
I get it.
It's not like the rest of the team
Austin
sucks,
Mack would be that guy, but I'm just saying if you absorb loss number 3 and you lose the game and you lose your quarterback, again, crazy hypothetical. I agree with you.
Yeah,
if they beat Auburn, they're in.
I think you, and I understand. Look, Alabama lost a football game, and I know what that means where you guys live. Everybody freak out. The sky is falling. The world is ending. The only time the world is ending is if they lose the Iron Bowl. Then the world really is ending, and they can freak out all they want. But if they win the Iron Bowl, they're gonna be fine.
Andy Staples, the voice of reason here, at Andy Staples. On3 Sports, and you can get his show with Ari every single day. Andy and Ari right there on YouTube, everywhere you get our show. He's with us on the Alexander Sonora Trial Attorneys Hotline. I was going to move on to a quick coaching search question. Are we done?
Yeah,
y'all got any more playoffs?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure. I mean, it is obviously a very hot topic. I think Lane Kiffin, the ultimate result of this is he's going to be the highest paid coach in football. I just do not know where.
Yes.
I just don't know where, Andy, but he's going to be the highest paid coach in football somewhere. And I don't know that anybody knows where, and Lane Kiffin may not even know where. But I do think we're in a world where staying at Ole Miss makes an awful lot of sense for him. And I don't think we could have been in this world 20 years ago.
Definitely not. I don't know if we would have been in this world 5 years ago, but definitely in it now. Because, look, they're in the playoff. LSU and Florida aren't. Ole Miss is capable of competing for the national title right now. LSU and Florida aren't. Now, you can say the ceiling is higher. I'm not sure they are. I think the ceiling is national championship at all 3 places. So it's not that, and it's not going to be money. They're all going to offer him a ton of money. It's going to come down to where does Lane Kiffin want to work? And I've been saying this the entire time. It is his personal preference, and as you know, he's the ultimate wild card. So anybody who tells you they know what's going to happen, like I had a tweet about Lane yesterday, and I screenshotted a set of 4 replies. All 4 replies by, not by any other reporters, just, fans that are interested in the sport. Every one of them was dead certain they knew it was going to happen. And there were 4 different results. Nobody knows but Lane Kiffin. So don't try to handicap it. You can say, his family visited Gainesville, his family visited Baton Rouge. Yes, they did. It doesn't mean that he's definitely leaving. And you can say, well, he talked up Ole Miss on the Pat McAfee show. Doesn't mean he's definitely staying. The easiest thing for him, if he wanted this to end, which he clearly doesn't, is he'd say, I'm staying at Ole Miss and signing an extension. That would be it. This would end immediately. But he has not said that. He's been given lots of opportunities to say that. He hasn't said that. So now you've got Ole Miss needing an answer because Ole Miss needs to know if they have to have a coaching search or not. And so they need an answer before they start prepping for the Egg Bowl. The Egg Bowl is a Black Friday game. Your Monday practice, your typical practice week, your Monday practice would be on Sunday. Your Sunday practice would be on Saturday if you're a Sunday practice team. Like, that's where you need to be watching. Is he going to give an answer? And the thing about this, and the reason he said there's no ultimatum, I don't know if there's an ultimatum, because I have no idea what the consequences would be if he says I'm leaving. Or if he just doesn't tell him anything. Like, I don't know that they just put him on administrative leave and go with an acting head coach or an interim. Like, I can't imagine that. But I also can't imagine a coach deciding to change teams before the playoff. But that's kind of where everybody is right now.
Well, and that's my thing is I wonder, what do you really do if you're Ole Miss if he decides to take the Florida job, or if he decides to take LSU? If you really believe that your best opportunity to win a national championship or make noise in this postseason is for Lane Kiffin to be your head coach, how do you not let him to continue to be the head coach just out of responsibility for your fans?
My co-host Ari Wasserman suggested this. He's like, don't even worry about 2026. He said, if Lane tells you he's going to Florida or LSU, just say, okay, fine, you're coaching the team the rest of the way, and we're not even going to do a coaching search. We'll make Pete Golding the head coach for next year, and it'll be like a Zach Arnett situation where if we don't like it, we'll fire him. And you could do that. You could do that if you want to. I don't think it's very practical, though, if we think about it from Keith Carter, the athletic director's perspective, because you're going to have the head coach of your team recruiting for a conference rival throughout your playoff run? Because he's going to have to do that. Whether he takes LSU or Florida, if he does that and then decides to keep coaching Ole Miss and they let him, he's going to spend a significant amount of time recruiting for those teams, for whatever team he's going to, not for Ole Miss. And you got to deal with that. And also, what about if any Ole Miss players want to go with him?
There you go. Yeah, because he's
you
recruiting.
want to deal with that during the playoff.
Yeah, recruiting within his own program, or, well, what was his own program for his next program.
I get that, but those guys are going to go anyway.
Well, they probably are, but, boy, I do not want the fox.
You don't want to deal with that when you got games coming up.
Yeah.
Just see Isaiah Bond at the Rose Bowl semifinal game. Most people thought maybe he had already worked out a Texas deal.
It already clocked out?
Yeah, before he got out there. Not that he played any less, but, you have these negotiations ongoing. Andy Staples is with us. All the attention on Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, LSU, Florida. What about the Auburn job right now? We've seen a lot of Auburn changes over the years, coaching searches. Some of them have been smooth, some of them haven't. How does this one look to you from where you sit? And do you think there's a clubhouse leader right now?
It seems like, just talking to the agents, that it's a pretty buttoned up search, and it's been not crazy. That they've identified their candidates, they've talked to the people they like, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. Just based on what I've heard is the clubhouse leader seems to be John Summerall at Tulane. And look, that's not news to anybody who's followed the sport for a few years. I mean, this is a guy who kind of feels built in a lab to be the spiritual successor to Pat Dye. I mean, he's a defensive guy. He's from Huntsville. His teams just play incredible defense. They're tough. He won 2 conference titles at Troy. He was in the conference title game last year with Tulane. He probably is going to be in the conference title game again with Tulane. Hell, he might be in the playoff. Let's not forget that. The difference is it's not the same conference. It's considered a step up, in weight class if he were to go to Auburn. So that's one where you probably could say, hey, you want to keep coaching through the playoff, that's fine with us. Like, I could see that happening. I don't see it happening if there's a move within the conference.
He is Andy Staples. You can follow him on social media at Andy Staples On3 Sports on their YouTube channel right there. He and Ari every single day talking college football. We always appreciate the time, Andy. Wonderful stuff as always.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Andy Staples with us on the Alexander Shinora Trial Attorneys Hotline.